Welcome to another edition of 5 and 5. Today we're on Wicklow Head and we are going to explore 5 native plant species that are growing in the most extreme environment, and these are the rocky shores, where the land cliffs meets the Irish Sea. There's salt-laden winds, there's little soil, and the species we'll see today are growing where few other plants could survive. This is Armeria marissima. It's also known as Thrift and sea pink, and you can see why it's called sea pink. The flower is beautiful. It's all over the coast and it's got these pink pom-poms on the top of a long wiry stalk, and these come from a lovely cushion form, perfectly suited to heavy salt-laden winds year round. It's got long fleshy leaves and a very long woody root, and that woody root allows it to anchor down into the hard rock. It's found all around Ireland on the coasts. Sometimes you find it in the Midlands, and they're usually along salt-laden roads, but also you find it on old lead mines and old copper mines, and that's because this little plant can live in these extreme environments. It can tolerate metals and live where other species can't. When you see a clump as big as this with hundreds of leaves, it probably indicates that this plant is decades old. This tiny little plant at the top of Wicklow Head, exposed to the salt-laden winds, is rock sea sperry. Even though it's tiny, if you feel down to the base of the plant, you can feel the woody stem. So this is old, and it produces new green shoots and flowers every year. The leaves are glandular, they are silver grey, and they're fleshy. So that it's adapted to dehydrating winds. The flowers are borne singly. On the outer edge there are 5 green sepals. The next layer are 5 pink petals. And on the inside there are 10 yellow stamens, and those stamens produce pollen. You can tell this species from the other species of sperry because the petals of this are always solid pink. The other species it's related to have white centres, so they're white and pink petals. This big plant in front of me here is called scurvy grass, and it's not a grass, it's a member of the cabbage family. And it gets its name because this plant is rich in vitamin C, and times gone past, a tonic would be made from the leaves, and it would be used by the sailors to prevent and to cure scurvy. To identify it in the field, you need to go right down to the base of the plant, and the leaves at the base of the plant have a heart-shaped base. This is called a cordate base. And then if you look at the flowering stalk, on the flowering stalk there's lots of fruits which are called globose in shape, so they're the shape of a globe. And the leaves on the stem don't have a leaf stalk. If you go to the flowers are white, and there are 4 petals, all in the shape of a cross, and many flowers are grouped together onto a compact head. And this seems to be a feature of plants we find in the coastal zone on rocky shores. This is Sedum anglicum. It's also known as English stonecrop. And what's really interesting about this little plant is that it's a succulent. But Ireland isn't a desert, so what's going on here? Well, the succulents, these fleshy leaves, allow this plant to store water on bare rock faces where there's absolutely no soil. And it can withstand beating winds and salt-laden winds. It's a low-growing, mat-forming plant. You notice that it's red in colour, and this protects it against sunburn on such like a south-facing hot cliff. It's got beautiful 5-petaled flowers, which are thought to be ant-pollinated. This little plant has also got a commercial use because it's now widely used in green roofs, and that's because it doesn't get sunburn because it's got these red pigments and it's got succulents. And the last really interesting fact about this plant is that it behaves like cactuses in the desert. It closes its stomata in the day and it only opens them at night, and this also stops it from losing water. This beautiful ice blue pom-pom flower is called Jazioni montana, or sheepspit scabious. On first glance, it looks like it's an individual flower, but in actual, if you look in more detail, there's 20, 30 tiny little flowers. Each flower, in the center of each flower is a white star. And what that actually is the stamens, the male parts of the plant, 5 of them in the center. Another interesting feature is that you've got these little pink tipped protrusions coming out of the petals, and that's the female part of the flower, which is often covered in pollen. The stalk is hairy and very wiry, and the leaves at the base also feel like velvet. They're very hairy. And according to medical research, this plant is rich in flavonoids, and those flavonoids accelerate wound healing.